The story commenced with a young woman's laughter aimed directly at the central character. She dared him to demonstrate how pathetic he appeared when provoked, ordering him to entertain her. Merely being his childhood associate, she added, was already an imposition. In that instant, the young man felt something within him shatter. Rua Takashiki was not an ordinary girl, she was a wildly popular idol and the granddaughter of Towaki, the chairman of the massive Tikai group, a vast conglomerate wielding considerable power across Japan. Her affluence and authority existed on a completely different plane from average individuals, making her resemble a flawless princess from a storybook. In sharp contrast, the young man, Kazuma Suzuki, was a quiet and unremarkable person, lacking a girlfriend or any companions whatsoever. He was, in essence, the quintessential image of a social pariah. If he possessed any defining characteristic, it was his status as the childhood friend of the renowned Rua Takashiki, and that was largely the extent of it. Consequently, he had always existed within Rua's sphere of influence. However, he harbored no desire to be exceptional like her, he simply wished for a typical existence, to have friends, and perhaps even find a romantic partner. He once shared this aspiration with Rua. Her reaction was to question his intellect, stating that a social outcast like him should comprehend his standing. She further asserted that his sole value stemmed from his connection to the celebrated Rua, and that bond had already exhausted all the good fortune in his life. She forcefully reminded him of his place. Rua reiterated that he should remain within his designated boundaries, even remarking that his physical appearance ought to acknowledge its limitations, she implied, dictated by his origins. The remarks Rua had directed at him since childhood weighed upon him like an enchantment. Yet, still longing for normalcy, he welcomed the arrival of his initial year of high school. While engrossed in reading a novel, his phone suddenly emitted a notification sound. He checked it and saw a communication from Rua instructing him to meet her at the station at 3 o'clock that day because she intended to go to karaoke with Eicha and others. He then pictured Eicha, a vibrant gyro girl he had never even exchanged words with. Rua continued sending messages, reminding him that he had expressed a desire for friends and a girlfriend. She added that the optimal course for him was to join the elite group and that he needed to initiate a change if he truly wished to transform. Kazuma perceived this as his chance. Driven by his yearning for transformation, he dressed as well as he could. He even summoned the courage to visit a hair salon. Upon arriving at the karaoke venue, he pushed open the door, prepared to present a revitalized version of himself. The moment he entered, the room erupted in laughter among Rua's acquaintances, who immediately began pointing at him and snickering. They questioned his audacity in showing up, branded him repulsive, and ridiculed him for even getting a haircut. The girls chattered ceaselessly, declaring it was impossible and that they could even detect the scent of the salon on him. Rua then instructed her friends to cease their laughter, remarking that he had genuinely made an effort to appear presentable. She then joined in the amusement herself. At that juncture, Kazuma grasped the true purpose of this entire event. Rua approached him, asking why he remained stationary. She told him to shed tears for her, wagering 10,000 yen that he would start weeping. Kazuma then inquired if he had done something so terribly wrong that it justified this sort of treatment. He asked again if he had committed any transgression. Rua retorted that it was patently obvious. She pointed at him and declared that it was simply because he was her servant and that he should exhibit how pitiable he appeared when frustrated. She commanded him to entertain her, an evil grin spreading across her features. She added that merely having someone like him as her childhood friend was already utterly dreadful. Just like that, Kazuma felt something inside him snap. He realized it was, in fact, the sound of their connection severing. He abruptly concurred with her, stating he felt the exact same way. He informed her that they should terminate their friendship right then and there. Rua was rendered speechless by his reply. She began yelling, demanding to know what he was saying and questioning who he believed he was. He countered by asking if she hadn't just declared she despised him. She yelled back, telling him not to be absurd and calling him an imbecile. She added that he had no right, that she could detest him as much as she pleased, but he was not permitted to harbor ill will towards her in return. Kazuma concluded that this represented the true pinnacle of Japanism. To think a girl like this held the top position in idol popularity, What a peculiar world they inhabited. He suddenly slammed the table and exited the room. Before leaving, he reiterated that he genuinely meant every word he had spoken. Rua remained utterly speechless. One of her friends called Kazuma's action childish and told him to cease acting coolly. Another friend advised Rua that she didn't need to concern herself with Kazuma. Acha abruptly noticed something on the table. There were now visible cracks in its surface, and she asked if it was broken. Rua's friends began questioning if possessing special abilities was actually possible. Another friend disagreed, asserting the table was already damaged and that no one could break a table with their bare hands unless they were not human. Another friend concurred. Rua was left trembling, and her friend inquired if what was being said was true, but she offered no response. Rua then cried out that she would never forgive Kazuma for ending their friendship. Kazuma felt liberated. He experienced an odd sense of invigoration, and his surroundings seemed brighter than usual. He started to wonder why he had been obeying instructions from someone like Rua for so long. Now, he felt he would rather spend his high school years in solitude than yield before that monstrous figure in human form. He realized that from this point forward, he no longer needed to exist as her shadow. He was now free. That evening, the chairman of the Tikai group and the headmaster of Tikai Academy, Takashiki Tao, was observed reviewing documents. Rua's cousin, Takashiki Sakura, appeared to be conversing with him. Suddenly, Rua approached him, calling him grandfather, and he seemed pleased to see her. She walked up while complaining that Kazuma had been so unkind to her that day and that he had declared his wish to end their friendship. Sakura then asked Rua if that was accurate, suggesting that perhaps Kazuma was simply feeling bored. Rua's anger continued to simmer as she called Kazuma a scoundrel and stated he had never defied her before. Sakura observed Rua after hearing her call Kazuma a scoundrel and suddenly inquired if Rua might have said something terrible to him. Rua quickly denied it, claiming it wasn't true. She added that it wasn't as if she had only said things like calling him a slave or stating that having him as her childhood friend was awful enough. She insisted that was the extent of her words. Sakura responded that those were quite harsh things to say to someone. Her grandfather agreed, stating it was understandable for Kazuma to be upset after hearing that. Rua was astonished that her grandfather took Kazuma's side. She rapidly dismissed any serious intent, claiming she was merely teasing him slightly. She explained that as soon as Kazuma entered high school, he suddenly started talking about wanting friends and a girlfriend. She asked if that wasn't peculiar. With fury, she shouted that it wasn't normal. She added that Kazuma had her, the world's most adorable Princess Rua, constantly by his side, yet he desired to be close to other individuals, particularly other girls. She found that notion preposterous. That, she claimed, was why she was just a little bit mean. She argued that a little teasing never harmed anyone. She added that no one else in the world understood him more than she did, and that she loved him. Her grandfather suddenly agreed, saying she was right and that Kazuma was wrong. Sakura observed his doting side emerge. Sakura then commented that if Rua wished to reconcile, she should be the one to initiate it. Before she could finish, Rua exclaimed that there was no possibility she would do that. Rua questioned Sakura, asking if she was Kazuma's mentor, and suggested that she should find a way to set things right by making Kazuma apologize to her, the charming Ruakin, and even make him confess his love for her and kiss her. Sakura smiled and remarked that a kiss might be pushing it. She then asked Rua's grandfather if he intended to make Kazuma Rua's husband. He agreed, explaining that this was why he assigned Sakura as Kazuma's guide, to instruct him in combat techniques and leadership abilities. He added that Rua genuinely liked Kazuma and that someone with Kazuma's innate talent was exceptionally rare. Sakura concurred regarding Kazuma's talent, stating she had never encountered anyone quite like him. She explained that since elementary school, Kazuma's grades had consistently been solid 3s out of 5. He deliberately achieved average scores to blend in with those around him. This was also so he could remain in Rua's shadow. If he ever became serious, he wouldn't merely achieve perfect 5s, the entirety of Japan, and potentially the entire world, would be in an uproar. She added that he was remarkably popular with girls and she had even needed to arrange transfers for countless girls who developed feelings for him. Despite this, Kazuma remained completely unaware of his actual popularity. Hearing this bolstered Rua's ego, and she confidently declared that it was because he belonged to her. The grandfather agreed and added that this made him worthy to be the successor of the Tikai group. Sakura remained silent, contemplating how, now that Kazuma had severed his friendship with Ruashan, he no longer needed to suppress his abilities in sports, academics, and even romance. Things, she reflected, might become exceedingly complicated. The following morning, a great deal of chatter filled the hallway about how someone named Suzuki Kazuma had dared to defy Princess Rua. As Kazuma made his way towards his classroom, he noticed a desk and chair in the corridor with a piece of paper taped to them that read, "No seat for you, lol." Kazuma recognized the reality of the situation. He had a vague understanding before, but now he knew with certainty, his childhood friend, the super-rich heiress and popular idol, was the most despicable kind of person imaginable. In this predicament, there were typically two choices: return the desk and chair to their correct positions and attend class without creating a scene. Most students would usually opt for this when subjected to such treatment, but that was not a viable option for him. This was because it was Tikai Academy. Tikai Academy's mission was to cultivate S-class talent and elevate Tikai to global prominence. It was publicly known as the S-class Academy. Academics, sports, entertainment, top performers in each field received tuition and dormitory waivers, attracting elite scholarship students from across the nation. Those with exceptional talents were regarded as the upper class, the rest, the ordinary students, constituted the lower class. A caste system, sometimes subtly, sometimes overtly, governed the school. The most renowned and influential person at Tikai was this girl, Princess Rua Takeshiki. Rua, plus the headmaster, was her grandfather, so naturally, the bald homeroom teacher was biased towards Rua. If Kazuma lodged a complaint in the staff room, the outcome would be unequivocally clear. So, would he choose option 1, return the desk and chairs to their rightful places and attend class without making a fuss? Or not? Since he had already resolved to live independently, a third option presented itself. He took out his pen and wrote, "Since that's the situation, I will study by myself. It's an instruction from Takeshiki-san, so please comply accordingly." He signed it Suzuki Kazuma. The students were left questioning if he could truly do such a thing and if he possessed no fear of Princess Rua. Without another word, Kazuma walked away, sensing it would be troublesome if someone found him. Kazuma decided to seek a place out of sight. He soon located a quiet spot and considered entering. It was the underground library, a location most students and even teachers likely didn't know about. Only a bookworm like himself would have heard of it from a senior on the library committee. It was the perfect clandestine place for the time being. Kazuma simply desired to live a normal life. Since he had defied Rua, making friends or getting a girlfriend was probably out of the question. If that was the case, he wished for her to at least permit him to live in peace by himself. As he opened another door, he discovered a girl about to change her clothes. She became startled. In that moment, he had no inkling that his attempt to lead a peaceful existence would commence with girls who were anything but quiet, and that his days could never again be described as tranquil. Meanwhile, Rua waited in class, anticipating Kazuma would soon arrive and apologize. On YouTube, Rua greeted her audience, stating she was everyone's idol, Bullied Him, also known as Takeshiki Rua. She boasted 1 million subscribers. She discussed today's topic, things that totally ticked me off recently. She explained that the other day, she had gone to karaoke with some girls from her class, obviously, only girls, because, as she claimed, boys were frightening to her. She complained that one of the boys had been a complete killjoy, just sitting there looking gloomy. Halfway through, he even announced he was going home, which ruined the mood. Rua told her supporters that if a party was lively, no one should be the one to spoil it. One for all and all for one, she declared, that's how it should be. She then shared some positive news, mentioning she had a new project. Rua announced she was forming a unit with a brand new voice actress, Minato Akan, and they would be releasing a CD. She added that a main chan was in the same agency and attended the same school as her, and she was very happy about it. Rua explained that the debut event would take place next Sunday at Shine Mall and that attendance was entirely free. She urged everyone to come. She then bid her audience goodbye. The video quickly filled with comments. There's always that one person who just can't read the room. I'll beat up the one who embarrassed Rua. Congrats on forming the unit. They shouldn't pair Rua with someone who drags her down. The agency should treasure her more. Who's Manado a main? I googled it and found nothing. Supporting you forever, Rua. Meanwhile, back in the underground library, Kazuma apologized to the girl and introduced himself as Kazuma from class 1 to 3. She introduced herself in return, saying she was Aminato from class 3, and apologized for raising her voice earlier. Kazuma accepted the blame for not checking properly before entering. He asked if she, too, had heard about the place from the library committee senpai. Minato agreed. Kazuma realized he wasn't the only one informed about this secret location. As she adjusted her shorts, Minato told him she was okay now. She apologized for keeping him waiting. Kazuma remained silent for a moment, then asked her why she was in gym clothes and, more importantly, why she was changing in the library in the first place. Minato hastily explained that she was searching for a spot to practice singing and dancing and remembered the underground library someone had once shown her. She quickly added that she was a genuine voice actress and had an upcoming unit live event. Kazuma responded by saying she was from the entertainment world, just like his childhood friend. Several entertainers attended Tikai Academy, students specifically chosen because the school held high expectations for them. He also noticed that she had even brought a full-length mirror, which indicated her dedication. He then inquired about her class. Minato mumbled and explained that when she arrived at school that morning, her desk and chair had been relocated to the hallway. There was a sign that read "No seat for you." Kazuma realized he had heard something similar recently. He also noticed that was likely why she had had tears in her eyes a moment ago. Suddenly, his phone screen lit up with a notification. He checked and saw a series of messages from Rua. She was asking his whereabouts and if he wasn't late. She asked if he had seen her video from yesterday and how everyone was calling him a jerk. Rua continued, asking what she should do next, perhaps reveal his name in her next video so her fans could inundate him? She told him to come and drag his pitiful desk into the classroom. She also informed him that if he knelt on the floor and begged, she might consider forgiving him. Without hesitation, Kazuma pressed the block button. Rua was now blocked. Kazuma then asked Minato why she was experiencing something like that and if she wasn't a special scholarship student. She quickly denied it, stating it wasn't true. She explained that even though she was a voice actress, she wasn't popular at all, and both her appearance and her voice were rather ordinary. Kazuma responded by saying he couldn't see her face clearly because of her bangs. He added that her voice sounded quite appealing, like the sound of a rolling bell, and thought it was a pleasantly memorable voice. Minato was suddenly flattered by his comments. She turned away, denying that her voice was cute and saying there were many people with superior voices in the idol and voice actress world. Compared to someone like Rua Takehiki, she felt insignificant. She added that even so, someone like her still ended up forming a unit with Ruzan, which was probably why she had been subjected to that kind of bullying. She went on to mention that even yesterday on her social media, she received a multitude of comments stating that if she teamed up with Rohim, Rua's status would decline. Kazuma couldn't help but think about how dreadful Rua's fans were, guessing that pigs really attract pigs. He suddenly asked Minato why she ended up teaming up with that pig, referring to Rua. Minato was startled by Kazuma's remark. She questioned what he meant by pig, and he quickly apologized, realizing he had said it aloud. He clarified that he meant Takehiki Rua. She quickly moved closer, cautioning him about the potential consequences if someone overheard him speaking ill of Rua at school. Kazuma replied that no one else was around. She agreed and began to explain the situation. She elaborated that it was the agency's decision. Since Rua and she were in the same agency, they believed pairing Rua with someone plain and gloomy would make Rua stand out more. Kazuma thought that was a rather harsh way to phrase it. He wondered if it was Tikai Music, the same agency connected to the massive Tikai group. He had no doubt that even the desk and chair incident was Rua's idea. Even if it was the agency's plan, Rua probably just couldn't tolerate being paired with someone she considered beneath her. Just as he was contemplating this, Minato suddenly stated she was content being background support. She added that it was a rare opportunity she had been granted, and at the very least, she didn't want to hold anyone back. She said she wanted to give it her absolute best effort. Kazuma asked her if that was why she had come to practice, and she affirmed it. He smiled and commented that her dedication was quite admirable. Seeing his reaction, she looked at him as he spoke her name. He then offered to keep her company during her practice, mentioning that all he could really provide was feedback from a complete amateur's standpoint. He extended his hand, asking if that would be acceptable to her. Minato took his hand with a wide smile and said she would be relying on him. In that moment, Kazuma noticed something up close. He realized that Minato was significantly cuter than that pig Rua. During lunch break, Kazuma walked through the hallway, thinking about how Minato had been practicing nonstop since morning. Worried she might become dehydrated, he had purchased 2 bottles of water. Suddenly, someone shouted his name. It was Rua. She demanded to know his whereabouts and what he thought he was doing skipping class. Kazuma remained completely unfazed now. Rua continued demanding to know why he was ignoring her and how he had even blocked her on Messenger. She reminded him that no one was permitted to ignore her. Then, she awkwardly suggested that perhaps it was because her face was so beautiful that he couldn't look directly at her. She asked if he was embarrassed or something. One of her followers suddenly emerged from behind, questioning Kazuma about why he was giving Rua the silent treatment and calling it rude. This sycophant's name was Asano, the baseball club's promising scholarship student. Kazuma mused about whether this lackey had nothing better to do than trail Rua. If he had time to waste like that, he should try following Minato Senpai's example instead. Asano became increasingly agitated as Kazuma remained silent, accusing him of mocking him with his expression. Asano prepared to punch him, demanding that he say something. As he threw the punch, it passed straight through Kazuma, leaving Asano bewildered, wondering if he had actually punched him because he felt absolutely nothing. Kazuma was now standing behind Asano. Asano looked back, shocked, wondering when Kazuma had moved. Other students began murmuring, questioning if Asano had genuinely missed and calling him inept. Some even started wondering if Asano was weak. Kazuma then calmly asked Asano if something was amiss, suggesting he might be out of shape. Asano, furious, readied himself to launch another punch, but Rua stopped him. He looked at her, surprised. Rua reminded him that she was the only one allowed to seriously interfere with Kazuma. She stated Asano could only lay a hand on him if she explicitly commanded it and that he should recognize his position. Completely confused, Asano complied. Kazuma then addressed Rua. Her face brightened, asking what he wanted. He then asked if she thought that display was impressive or something. She was clearly taken aback. Before she could respond, Kazuma calmly told her to listen carefully. Absolutely no one was allowed to interfere with him or bully him. He raised his head and looked directly at her, telling her that he didn't care who she was. As he walked away, he simply told her to leave him alone. Rua sank to her knees, defeated. Other students hurried to assist her, asking if she was alright, and another questioned what Kazuma's issue was. But Rua, sitting there, found herself thinking that what he had just done was genuinely cool. 1 week later, Minato was practicing her dancing when she suddenly stumbled and fell. Kazuma swiftly caught her and asked if she was alright. She apologized again, saying it happened repeatedly. Kazuma told her not to worry about it, he wouldn't want her getting injured before the actual event. Minato then complimented him, saying how amazing he was. No matter his location, every time she tripped, he somehow managed to catch her. Kazuma simply responded that it was nothing remarkable. Minato then denied it, saying it wasn't true. She mentioned that ever since that day, Kazuma had been watching over her, encouraging her, and that he had no idea how much of a help he had been. She demonstrated her gratitude by thanking him profoundly. Kazuma was surprised by her thanks. No one had ever said something like that to him before. He responded by saying he hadn't done anything special. He then reminded her that the segment simply required her to return to the center stage and that it wouldn't be better to just walk back normally without spinning. He asked her if she always lost her balance at that particular spot. Minato admitted it wouldn't look good on stage if that occurred. Kazuma pondered an idea and suggested she leap back in a single move, suggesting it might even be a standout moment on stage. She immediately told him it was impossible, the center of the stage was at least 5 meters away. Kazuma then demonstrated how to utilize the strength in her knees. He performed the move, and Minato was shocked. Nervously, she said it was impossible for her. She asked him what he had just done, saying he bounced like he was on a trampoline or something and that normal people couldn't do that. She suddenly asked if his physical education grades were exceptionally high or something. Kazuma told her no, that since elementary school, he had consistently received solid 3s out of 5. Minato looked at him surprised and asked what exactly she was witnessing. Kazuma commented on her posture, saying it was slightly off. She agreed, admitting she knew and that she had never been able to correct her slouch. The choreography coach had even been upset with her about it. Kazuma remained silent for a moment, then suggested she leverage that slouch instead. He showed her how to incorporate it naturally into her movements, and she copied his actions. He then told her to continue directly into Satsuki's dance from that point. Minato managed to execute the dance moves while maintaining her slouched posture, transforming it into a unique part of her style. Kazuma felt a sense of accomplishment and thought she looked incredibly cute. Minato then grew exhausted but smiled, commenting that the movements were finally starting to feel right. Kazuma told her that was excellent and even suggested asking the costume designer to create a set of cat ears and a tail for her. Minato laughed and agreed but suddenly mentioned that she couldn't really use that idea. Kazuma asked why, and she explained that with that kind of appearance, she wouldn't complement Ruzan effectively. She clarified that her role was to make Rua shine, after all. Kazuma was left speechless, asking her if she was genuinely okay with that. Minato agreed, stating that to begin with, singing while dancing wasn't her primary strength. She added that she actually wanted Kazuma to watch her practice her acting instead. After all, she was a voice actor. She explained that she aspired to perform as an anime character and that was why she was devoting her full effort to the current project, hoping that even slightly, it would lead to voice acting opportunities. Kazuma responded by saying he understood. In his eyes, Minato was remarkably positive, and when she discussed voice acting, she seemed full of vitality. He could truly perceive how much she cherished her work. He suddenly told her that he felt envious. She was confused, so he explained that it was because he didn't truly possess any dreams or objectives. Minato then asked if there was nothing he wished to become. Kazuma mentioned that he simply wanted to be ordinary. He said he was fine with not being anything exceptional, he just desired an ordinary life that he could be proud of and declare, "That's who I am." Minato smiled and told him that was perfectly fine. She added that since he was Kazuma, she was certain he could become ordinary or even become anything he desired. This bright, positive girl unexpectedly made him realize something. For the first time, Kazuma smiled and thanked her. Minato noticed and suddenly brought up something else she had been wondering about. She mentioned hearing the rumor about how he had had an altercation with Rua. She added that she thought it might have been because of her involvement. Kazuma told her that wasn't the case. Minato quickly asked if Rua wasn't his childhood friend and if Minato's presence was creating a difficult situation for him. He told her again that it wasn't like that. He stated Rua was no longer his childhood friend or anything of the sort anymore, so he wasn't giving it any thought. Minato then asked if that was truly the case. She called his name, and he asked what it was. She moved closer to him and said, if he was amenable, would he like to? Suddenly, the door slammed open. It was Rua, and she did not appear happy at all. She demanded to know what Minato was doing with Kazuma in a place like this. Rua stood there acting possessively, even though her opportunity with him was clearly long gone. As for Minato, she was stunned and genuinely frightened to see Rua.